The Galactic Council did not view humanity as a threat. To them, Earth was just another Tier 4 backwater world, populated by fragile, fleshy bipedal creatures. When the apex predatory empire, the Valari, launched their planet-cracking dreadnoughts toward Sol, the galaxy watched with cold indifference. It was standard procedure, a stronger species conquering a weaker one for raw resources. No one expected a fight. The universe was about to learn its most painful lesson. The Valari Emperor stood before the holographic star map, laughing as his fleet surrounded the blue planet. He broadcasted a galaxy-wide feed, turning the annihilation of Earth into a pay-per-view event for trillions of alien viewers. Watch closely, the Emperor boomed, his mandibles clicking in amusement. See how quickly weakness is purged from the cosmos. On screen, millions of human ships, hastily built from scrap metal and sheer panic, rose to meet them. The alien audience expected a swift massacre. Human hulls were thin, their kinetic weapons primitive compared to Valari plasma cannons. Yet, as the first wave of plasma tore through human dreadnoughts, something strange happened. The human ships didn't scatter or retreat. They accelerated, burning their engines past safe limits. They rammed directly into the Valari shields. It was a suicidal, terrifying display of absolute, unyielding defiance. Trillions of alien viewers gasped as a single human cruiser shattered a Valari flagship through sheer kinetic impact. In the grand libraries of the Citadel, alien scholars scrambled to understand the data. No sentient species in recorded history possessed a survival instinct so fundamentally broken. To aliens, logic dictated retreat when victory was impossible. Humans, however, did not operate on logic. They operated on rage, honor, and a refusal to bow down. The Valari fleet coordinator panicked as his tactical overlay turned entirely red. "They aren't defending their territory," he screamed into the comms. "They are trying to drag us into the grave with them." Human soldiers, outgunned 10 to 1 on the terrestrial surface, used physical projectile weapons that bypassed alien energy shields entirely. Lead bullets tore through advanced carbon fiber armor, turning the high-tech invasion into a brutal, bloody trench war. By hour 6 of the broadcast, the chat feeds of the Galactic Network were melting down. Millions of alien subscribers were waking up their families to watch the live stream. The human homeworld was burning. Cities were turning to ash under orbital bombardment, but the humans simply refused to stop fighting. For every human that fell, 3 more emerged from the smoking rubble, clutching crude weapons and singing haunting, defiant war anthems. What the galaxy failed to realize was that Earth was a high-gravity death world. Humans had evolved surviving apex predators, toxic plagues, and brutal ice ages. Their bodies were evolutionary engines designed for extreme trauma. When a Valari soldier suffered a fractured limb, they went into shock and died. When a human soldier lost an arm, their adrenaline spiked, their blood clotted instantly, and they used their remaining hand to pull the pin on a grenade. The Valari Emperor's confident smile completely vanished. His invincible armada was losing momentum against a species that didn't even possess faster than light travel a century ago. He ordered the deployment of their ultimate weapon, the atmospheric destabilizer, a bomb meant to suffocate the entire planet. As the massive device descended into Earth's stratosphere, a lone human pilot in a heavily damaged fighter jet bypassed the entire defense grid. "My name is Captain Reyes," the pilot's voice cracked through the intercepted galactic broadcast, echoing in the homes of trillions of aliens. "You came to our home to watch us die. But humans don't die quietly." With his shields offline and engines failing, Reyes steered his ship directly into the core of the destabilizer. The resulting explosion lit up the night sky like a second sun, vaporizing the weapon and saving the atmosphere below. The silence across the galaxy was deafening. A single Tier 4 species had just stopped a Galactic Empire's ultimate weapon through pure, unadulterated willpower. The Valari fleet was breaking apart, their morale utterly shattered by the relentless, terrifying ferocity of the human counter-offensive. Humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought with a terrifying, infectious passion that made the rest of the universe realize how stagnant they had become. On the ground, human forces pushed the remaining invaders back into their landing zones. The imagery broadcasted across the cosmos was iconic, a flag of woven fabric, stained with red human blood, being raised over the captured Valari command outpost. The comment sections of the galactic feed exploded with awe. Alien viewers from repressed sectors began openly cheering for humanity, inspired by the impossible rebellion unfolding live on screen. Realizing his empire was on the verge of total collapse, the Valari Emperor ordered a full retreat. But the humans had already reverse-engineered the captured FTL drives from the fallen alien ships. As the Valari fleet jumped into hyperspace to escape, they realized too late that the humans were not letting them go. The predators had officially become the prey. The human fleet followed them into the void, driven by a new galactic mandate: never again. 10 years have passed since the Battle of Earth. The Galactic Council chamber is packed to maximum capacity, thousands of alien diplomats whispering in hushed, nervous tones. At the center of the podium stands a human ambassador, dressed in a simple, sharp suit. The universe no longer looks down on humanity. Now, they look at them with absolute reverence and fear. The Valari Empire is gone, completely dismantled by the species they tried to enslave. "We desired peace," the human ambassador spoke, his voice echoing through the massive chamber, commanding absolute silence from the alien audience. "We wanted to look at the stars and find friends. Instead, you brought us war. We proved that we can survive your worst nightmares. Now, the choice is yours. Do you wish to walk alongside us as equals, or do you want to find out what happens when humanity truly gets angry?" Not a single alien dared to speak. The galaxy had learned its lesson. You do not poke the sleeping giant. You do not underestimate the fragile creatures of Earth, because behind their soft skin and kind smiles lies an ancient, primal fire that can burn down empires. The broadcast ended, and across 1,000,000 worlds, billions of alien citizens hit the subscribe button to the human news feeds, desperate to stay on humanity's good side. The era of human dominance had officially begun. The human fleet did not stop at the borders of the Sol system. The concept of mercy was entirely foreign to a species that had just stared into the abyss of total extinction. Utilizing the reverse-engineered hyperspace drives, the newly formed United Earth Navy pursued the retreating Valari remnants across the Orion Arm. Every jump the aliens made, the humans were already there, waiting in the dark like vengeful ghosts of a world the Empire tried to burn. The Valari High Command was in a state of absolute chaos. Their deep space tracking stations were picking up hundreds of massive human signatures emerging from warp space simultaneously. What terrified the alien admirals most was the sheer speed of human technological adaptation. In less than a year, humans had integrated alien plasma shielding with their own heavy kinetic railguns, creating devastating warships that the galaxy had never seen before. Trillions of galactic citizens tuned back into the universal feed, completely hooked on the unfolding drama. This was no longer a standard territorial dispute, it was a masterclass in relentless pursuit. Human dreadnoughts, painted in pitch black with the glowing blue emblem of Earth, systematically locked down the Valari supply lines. The predators who had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were now being systematically hunted by their former prey. The first major engagement of the counter-offensive took place in the dense asteroid fields of the Orion Nebula. The Valari had set up a massive, heavily fortified ambush point, hoping to use the cosmic dust to blind human sensors. They assumed human pilots relied entirely on electronic targeting systems like every other civilized species. It was a fatal mistake. Humans had spent centuries flying through turbulent atmospheres by pure human instinct. As the Valari ambush sprung, human fighters turned off their main targeting computers to avoid electronic warfare jamming. They switched to manual flight controls, relying on raw reflex and spatial awareness. To the watching alien audience, it looked like absolute madness. Human pilots were drifting multi-ton starfighters through narrow asteroid gaps at lethal speeds, firing backward with terrifying precision, shattering the alien formation from within. The battle turned into an absolute rout within 40 minutes. The Valari commander looked at his tactical screen in horror as his elite interceptor squadrons were torn to pieces by creatures who fought like literal demons. They aren't even using automated aiming algorithms, he whispered over the emergency channel. They are aiming with their bare eyes and firing by sheer intuition. What kind of monsters have we unleashed upon the cosmos? Realizing the Valari Empire was facing total annihilation, the Emperor sent an urgent, desperate distress signal to the Galactic Council. He begged for an emergency military intervention, claiming that humanity was a galactic threat that would eventually destroy all sentient life. The Council, terrified by the raw violence they were witnessing on the live feeds, called for an immediate emergency session in the Grand Citadel to address the human crisis. Thousands of alien ambassadors gathered in the Grand Amphitheater, their voices a nervous hum of panic. The holographic projector in the center displayed the rapidly shrinking borders of the Valari territory. Representatives from the wealthy core worlds demanded that a galactic peacekeeping armada be deployed to push humanity back to their small blue planet. They feared that the traditional balance of power in the universe was shattering forever. Just as the council speaker was about to call for a vote on military intervention, the main blast doors of the chamber hissed open. The sudden sound echoed like a thunderclap through the silent hall. Two human shock troopers, clad in heavy, battle-scarred power armor, stepped into the room. Behind them walked a lone human diplomat, carrying nothing but a small data pad and an aura of absolute, terrifying confidence that silenced the room. The human diplomat walked calmly to the center of the podium, ignoring the thousands of weapons pointed at him by the Citadel security guards. He looked up at the High Chancellor, his expression cold and unreadable. "I understand you are voting on whether to help the empire that attempted to murder our children," the diplomat said, his voice amplified by the universal translator. The entire assembly held its collective breath in heavy silence. "Let me make one thing perfectly clear to this council," the diplomat continued, tapping his data pad. A massive holographic image filled the room, showing the coordinates of every capital city on every major council world. "We have no desire to conquer your planets or steal your wealth. We only want justice for the millions of humans who died in the opening days of this war. If you stand in our way, we will treat you exactly like the Valari." The threat was direct, brutal, and entirely serious. The alien politicians looked at the targeting data on the screens, realizing that human stealth scouts had already infiltrated their home systems without anyone noticing. The realization sent a wave of icy terror through the assembly. The council, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years through bureaucracy and intimidation, found themselves completely powerless against human resolve. With the Galactic Council successfully intimidated into absolute neutrality, the human fleet arrived at the Valari home planet, a massive, heavily shielded jewel world known as Primus. The planet was protected by a planetary defense grid consisting of 3 orbital rings, each armed with thousands of heavy plasma batteries. The Valari Emperor believed his stronghold was completely impregnable, a fortress that could withstand a century of siege. The human admiral did not plan a siege. Instead, he ordered the deployment of the newly developed Project Hephaestus. From the bellies of the human capital ships, thousands of automated mining drones were launched toward the planet's nearby moon. Using heavy fusion torches, the drones began slicing massive chunks of rock from the moon, converting them into giant, engine-propelled kinetic meteors aimed directly at the orbital defense rings. The Valari High Command watched in sheer, paralyzed horror as the humans literally used their own moon as ammunition. The kinetic rocks, traveling at a significant fraction of the speed of light, smashed through the orbital rings like glass. The beautiful planetary shields flickered and died under the sheer kinetic energy of the impact. Human engineering had turned a standard siege into a terrifying exhibition of planetary manipulation. The orbital rings fell out of the sky in burning streaks of metal, lighting up the alien capital city in a hellish glow. Within minutes, human dropships began raining down through the atmosphere like shooting stars. The Valari elite guards, who had never faced a physical ground invasion on their own soil, scrambled to form defensive lines around the imperial palace. They were met by the terrifying roar of human mechanized infantry. Human soldiers stepped out of the smoke, their heavy boots cracking the pristine alien marble streets. Unlike the Valari, who relied entirely on energy weapons that could be deflected by shields, the human forces used heavy-caliber explosive rounds. The sound of human gunfire was a deafening, rhythmic thud that shattered the morale of the defenders before they even saw the enemy. The war had finally come to the Emperor's doorstep. The palace guards fought bravely, but they were dealing with a species that had perfected urban warfare over thousands of bloody years of internal history. Human squad tactics were a beautiful, terrifying dance of suppression fire, flanking maneuvers, and brutal close-quarters combat. Every room the Valari tried to hold was systematically cleared with flashbangs and fragmentation grenades. The Imperial defense was collapsing by the minute. The heavy blast doors of the throne room were blown off their hinges by a massive thermite charge. The Valari Emperor stood alone, clutching a ceremonial plasma blade, his golden armor reflecting the flames of his burning palace. The human commander walked through the smoke, his rifle lowered but his hand resting casually on the sidearm at his hip. The universal feed was still running, broadcasting this historic moment to the entire galaxy. "You think you are victors," the Emperor spat, his voice trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. "But you are nothing but savages from a dirt world. You have destroyed a civilization that brought order to this galaxy." The human commander did not look angry, he looked incredibly tired. He stepped closer, his heavy visor reflecting the desperate alien king. The silence in the room was heavier than the gravity of a neutron star. "You mistook our peaceful nature for weakness," the human commander replied quietly. "We built a paradise on our dirt world, and you tried to turn it into a graveyard. We didn't come here to destroy your civilization. We came here to ensure you never have the power to destroy anyone else's." With a swift, efficient movement, the commander disarmed the Emperor, ending a 1,000-year dynasty without firing a single unnecessary shot. The aftermath of the war reshaped the galaxy permanently. The Valari military complex was completely dismantled, replaced by a human-supervised provisional government focused on peaceful trade and resource distribution. Humanity did not enslave the conquered species, nor did they plunder their cities. Instead, they opened trade routes and shared their medical technology, surprising the cynical alien factions who expected a brutal occupation. This unexpected display of human empathy confused the Galactic Council even more than their military might. In the Grand Libraries, alien philosophers began studying human literature, trying to understand how a species could be so utterly terrifying in war, yet so incredibly gentle and protective in peace. The concept of Pax Humana, a peace guaranteed by the threat of human intervention, became the new foundation of galactic law. On Earth, the scarred cities were rebuilt, grander and more beautiful than before, using a mix of human architecture and alien materials. A massive monument was listing the names of every soldier and pilot who had sacrificed their lives to protect the planet. It became a pilgrimage site, not just for humans, but for millions of alien tourists who wanted to pay respects to the species that saved the galaxy from tyranny. Years of peace followed, but humanity never allowed themselves to become complacent again. Shipyards across the Sol system worked around the clock, constructing a massive, permanent defensive fleet known as the Wardens of Sol. They knew that the universe was vast, and the Valari were likely not the only predators hiding in the dark sectors of unmapped space. Humanity was determined to be ready for whatever came out of the dark next. Deep space monitoring stations on the edge of the galaxy began picking up strange, anomalous signals from the uncharted Andromeda void. The signals were not radio waves or plasma frequencies. They were gravity waves, rhythmic pulses that indicated massive artificial structures moving toward the galactic rim. The Council turned to Earth once again, their previous arrogance completely replaced by absolute reliance on human military genius. The human High Command analyzed the data, recognizing the pattern instantly. It was an armada of automated world-eating machines, an ancient threat that had wiped out thousands of civilizations before the Council even existed. The alien diplomats in the chamber trembled as the data was presented, realizing that this new threat was 10 times larger than the Valari Empire at its absolute peak. They looked to the humans for answers. The human fleet admiral stood before the Joint Galactic Assembly, looking out at the anxious faces of 1,000 different alien species. He did not give a speech of fear or despair. Instead, he smiled, a confident, fierce expression that instantly calmed the room. For millions of years, the universe has been a place where the strong devour the weak, the Admiral said, his voice echoing with absolute certainty through the Grand Hall. But Earth changed that rule, the Admiral continued, gesturing to the massive holographic display of the human fleet moving into defensive positions along the galactic border. We proved that willpower and unity can overcome any evolutionary advantage. We don't care how big this new threat is. We don't care if they have consumed 1,000 galaxies before ours. This galaxy is under human protection now. Let them come. As the broadcast cut to black, a wave of applause and cheers erupted across millions of alien home worlds. The universe had finally found its guardians. The final screen showed a simple text overlay. Subscribe to the Terran Defense Network. Join the ranks of the unbroken. Trillions of entities rushed to join the human cause, solidifying humanity's place as the eternal, undisputed apex species of the cosmos. Subscribe the channel for more videos and do not forget to press the bell icon.